So grateful for everyone who's come today on behalf of the family and everyone who is a friend and a community member. It's wonderful to be together and just terrible. It's a huge loss for all of us. We're going to begin with one of Pete's favorite songs and something that he'd really appreciate hearing in this moment.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata
We are here today to remember a truly great individual, someone who brightened our lives in so many ways, and we're going to remember him in the way that he'd want to be remembered, with stories and laughter and love. To his wonderful family, our hearts break for you, in particular to Jesse and Becky, and to Brendan and Chris, and to Eleanor and Lincoln, Sabine, Sydney, and Julian, to his brother Harold, who couldn't be here in person. Oh, he is here. There he is. There's Harold, sorry. Well, Pete's very glad you're here. To Nancy, his wife as well, and to Kim, and to Elaine as well, his friend. And I hope I got everyone there, but we are really bereaved for you. We know what this loss is, and we're also grateful that he's at peace. And we know that it's not just your duty to celebrate his life, but all of ours collectively, and we're going to make it a little easier on you as well. We're going to begin, I think, in a way that he would love, which is his grandchildren reading a reading. So if they could come up over here, we really appreciate it. We gave them the mic up here.
to open eyes when others close them, to hear when others do not wish to listen, to look when others turn away, to seek to understand when others give up, to rouse oneself when others accept, to continue to the struggle even when one is not the strongest.
To cry out when others keep silent. To be a Jew, it is that. It is first of all that and further. To live when others are dead and to remember when others have forgotten.
Thank you. We're going to have Becky and Jesse come up now to share words about their dad.
I'm sure most of you know that Dad penned many My View columns in the Buffalo News over the last few years, which were about people and events in his life that were close to his heart. In that way, he had really already told his own story and left records of his life. For today, Jess and I wondered what was left to share. And the answer was the one thing that Dad wouldn't ever write about, and that was himself. I'll admit that as the engineer of the family, I was nervous about putting pen to paper and expressing my love for Dad in words today. Dad was always my copy editor and writing coach, and I really missed his guidance. So what did I do? Naturally, I went for a run. Dad and I were best running buddies, going out on what he referred to as dad-back runs. We'd talk for miles, catching up on our lives and helping each other to solve problems. He planned each visit with me and every family trip, and I mean every family trip, around a race. Dad and I ran half marathons together through the Red Rocks of Utah on a lovely fall day after I rolled my eyes at him for unabashedly wearing a garbage bag to keep warm at the starting line. Through the redwood forests of Northern California, in the Icelandic capital of Reykjavik, along the cherry blossoms in DC. We gave each other high fives when we passed each other on an out and back section of a race along the Pacific Ocean in San Francisco. He was running much faster than me. Most recently, Dad was thrilled to go on a short jog across a bridge in Denver that I helped build. Dad meticulously recorded his mileage in notebooks and proudly displayed his many, many medals in a beautiful curio cabinet, which he was tending to even in his final days. He always had a kick at the finish line because he believed you have to look good for the crowds. One of Dad's most notorious runs was a few miles through the Sinai Desert in Egypt, when he described the not-so-friendly looks he got from locals as this American ran by waving in shorts and a t-shirt coming from the Israeli border. He always used the line, "They love me in Egypt." Every run my dad and I did together started and ended with a hug or holding hands, and Dad offering one of his favorite sayings just before the gun went off, "A blessing on your head," which referred to the ancient Jewish prayer for bestowing blessings from parent to child. While I am filled with sadness that our runs are now in the past, I'm certain that Dad appreciated each one to the fullest and recognized, even in the moment, how special it was to be running together.
Dad was fond of invoking the Jewish concept of Lador Vador, meaning from generation to generation. We feel that so strongly being here today with all of you in this special room. Becky and I were given Hebrew names here. We had our bat mitzvahs. We watched Dad be sworn in as temple president, give talks, hold the Torah on the high holidays. The names of all 4 of Dad's grandparents are inscribed on that wall over there. And it wasn't so long ago that we were here honoring our mom, Barbara, and our grandparents, Sylvia and Joe, after their passings. In fact, the last time we gathered in this room in 2012 to remember my mom, I was pregnant with my son Lincoln, who just made his papa so proud by participating. Our family was our dad's #1 priority, and that never once wavered. Dad met Mom in a courtroom in the 70s. She reportedly asked a colleague on the bench who that guy was sitting in the audience with the curly red beard. Their bond grew while sheltering from the blizzard of 77 together. Dad gave Mom the nickname B.A. because everyone got a nickname from him. B.A. for Barbara Ann, which I think is the most endearing, loving, and lasting of all his nickname creations. Our parents built a progressive relationship that was based on their own strengths and needs and disregarded gender roles or egos. Looking back, creating a relationship like theirs in the early 80s was a quietly bold and impressive feat, and displays their joint commitment to their daughters first and foremost. And it worked. Dad did much of the child caretaking, a fair share of the cooking and cleaning, and gladly enabled Mom to work late hours in a demanding career. They also shared an easy togetherness. While my mom clucked her tongue and rolls her eyes at my dad's antics, like him smiling with an orange slice in his mouth predictably after every meal at Eastern Pearl, sitting there until someone gave in and acknowledged him. She rolled her eyes, but she was also smiling. Dad loved Becky and I so fiercely, while also giving us space to be who we were, supporting us without any judgment whatsoever. He extended the same commitments he offered as a father to his 5 grandchildren. Papa wanted to attend every game and meet that his Buffalo grandkids had, storing his cheap drugstore folding chair permanently in the back of his car so he'd be prepared. He spearheaded a 2018 trip to Traverse City, Michigan, with the families of both Becky and I, and had a smile plastered across his face watching the kids enjoying the lakeside beach together. Dad wept with joy as he recited the Shehecheyanu, Dad's favorite prayer and the Jewish prayer for gratitude, at the Hebrew naming ceremonies of his grandkids in Denver. The truly unconditional way he shared his love for his family will be the model for how we will raise our children in the years to come.
Thank you all for coming today to help us celebrate our dad. He would be touched as we are to see you. Thank you.
And we have Robert Dorn. And he's going to represent, he's one of Pete's oldest friends.
"72 years, my entire life. There are no memories of any time period when Pete was not my friend. Our mothers were high school friends, and as the story goes, we were in a bassinet together. Even at that early age, he used his sharp elbows to block me out, as many of you who played basketball soon learned. Over the last couple of days, I thought about the memories from the 72 years of archives of edited films spliced together of Pete's and my friendship. How do I select from what period of time? We grew up around the block from each other. Saturday and Sunday mornings, holidays, summer days always began with me at Pete's house before 8 a.m. At first, I'd ring the doorbell, but Pete's mom, Sylvia, quickly quashed that. She told me I couldn't ring the bell before 9 a.m. I quickly learned, so I arrived at Pete's house as normal before 8 a.m. And rather than ring the doorbell, I yelled, "Oh, Petey, can you come out and play?" The Simons accepted me as their 4th son. In many ways, Pete was my brother, not just a friend. Then as I edited the splice films racing through my memory, I passed the scenes of our walking to school 66 to the Little League team managed by Pete's father, Joe. We were both officers in the 8th grade graduating class. Both graduates had been in high school. Both graduates UB. Both still loved baseball. But I can't resurrect all the memories. The memories of his 40th birthday in Atlanta, the memorable basketball games, the memories of the birth of Becky and Jesse, the annual Hanukkah parties. So when I sat and thought about the memories, one stood out. It was of a conversation we had a couple of years ago. We were talking about giving eulogies. And I asked him how he was able to give a eulogy at a loved one's funeral. I was not able to do so at my late wife Terry's. His answer was, "You just have to put your mind to it." That was Pete's answer throughout his life. Just put your mind to it. Pete put his mind to listen and care about what others felt. He put his mind to be honest with others. He put his mind to show integrity. He put his mind to write with a colorful pen, capturing the human condition. He put his mind to live a healthy life, and yes, he put his mind to hold off the effects of the terrible disease for 12 years. Pete was a quiet leader, a beautiful man, a person everyone wanted to be around. He made you feel comfortable. He made you feel interesting. He was funny and laughed at his own jokes before he even finished the punchline. 72 years of memory of my brother Pete will never be forgotten. But Pete, the street lights just went on, so as we know, it's time to go home. Barbara is waiting with the latkes. So for one last time, oh, Petey, can you come out and play? I love you, Pete.
A few months ago, when we buried another of our synagogue presidents, Cantor Barbara Osfeld led a little exercise that I'd like to do right now just to show the breadth and the depth of Pete's community. If you were a member of his North Buffalo growing up family, please rise. If you were a member of his Buffalo News family, please rise. If you were a member of his Temple Beth Am and Shir Shalom family, please rise. If you were a member of his Running family, please rise. If you were a member of the Ellicott Creek Bike Path renovations, please rise. All right. We got almost everyone here. You may be seated. Who was Pete Simon? He was kind, compassionate, outgoing, quiet, mischievous, witty, reliable, dependable, serious, funny, empathetic, hardworking, community-minded, family-centered. Pete Simon was all those things and more. First and foremost, he was, as I told Becky and Jesse, someone who believed passionately in bringing people together. He was a connector. He connected all of us. Why? Because he loved us, and he loved his community. Everything he did was done with the utmost seriousness and respect for the activity, but also with a sense of playfulness and humor. Just want to read, there's a beautiful eulogy that was written that's published online on the Buffalo News, just a little bit of it. This is from his family there. For almost 4 decades, Buffalo newsmakers knew Pete Simon as a tough, smart, unflappable Buffalo News reporter who provided balanced coverage of even the most controversial local stories. His many friends in the newsroom saw another side of Mr. Simon. They knew him for his quick, dry wit and the hilarious remarks he would deliver with a twinkle in his eyes and a slight smirk in his face. First time I met Peter, he never told me which one is better. And as I told his daughters, his one answering machine said Pete, the other one said Peter. It was in the courtyard of the former Kadima school on Eggert Drive on a sunny April day right before Passover. We were there to celebrate a very rare event in the Jewish community. It's called Birkat HaChoma, which is the blessing over the sun. It only occurs every 28 years, and it's the moment where the sun is supposed to return to its original place in creation. And we were there. It was pretty early. I remember getting up and going over on the day before Passover, and Pete was there. And he was there to do a story for the news. And he sat me down on one of the couches that was over there in their beautiful foyer at Kadima School. And we schmoozed. And it wasn't like any other reporter I'd ever met. He was sort of interested in the story of this event, but he was mostly interested in finding out about me. And he sat down, he asked me about God and faith and what it meant to be a Reconstructionist rabbi and what it meant in the context of this celebration. I said, no comment, which he could put in the story, actually. I thought, well, this is a person I'd like to get to know better. And a few years later, when we were merging in 2012, hard to believe, we're in our 10th anniversary, Pete was essential. We actually have a number of our merger family here together, people that helped to work on it. It was not easy job. It's hard to combine the customs of two different communities and try to tell one story. But Pete didn't shy away from it. He loved it. He loved every moment of it. And I remember sitting with him at the Westwood. We celebrated together after we made the deal official. It was exciting. It was like after the Super Bowl. And Pete had just this glorious smile on his face, and he was just so proud of his work on it. Just a little bit after that, we said goodbye to Barbara. And I remember sitting with him and the family, and he knew exactly how to do it. He knew what she would want, and he knew the beautiful way that we should do it. I told his daughters I remembered that they wore the white gloves and the hat, and we really epitomized her life and did it in such a sweet way. Over that time, I got to really know what a person he was. I got to know his children and his grandchildren and his extended family, and what a wonderful family. He would talk for hours about them, how much he loved them. You could just see it in his face when he would talk about his grandchildren. We've been in, over the years, we've been in regular contact throughout. And he was on our board, and when his time was up, he would write articles for us for the Jewish Journal. We thought this was a perfect place for Pete because he could use his love of writing. But he did it differently than other people would have. He didn't see it, he said he would never do a fluff piece. Anything he did, it had to be serious, and he said he had to find the angle, the proper angle for it. It had to matter. And during those times, whenever we'd have an article, he'd call me, and we'd talk, he would do an interview. It would be a conversation just like that first time, and he would know exactly what to say and how to say it. We would also talk quite a bit about My View columns. That is, for those of you not familiar, maybe not from Buffalo, that is a special section that Becky and Jesse mentioned as well in the Buffalo News that's reserved for community members. This was a wonderful way for Pete to continue his writing career, and actually, appropriately enough, just 1 month ago, he had his last article, and he dedicated it to his brother David. And he knew what was important, that he was always using it, not for himself, but to really spread the story of the family and the values and all the wonders that he had in his life. And I also am very proud because my article was printed, I think, the same week as his. And so we got to share that moment. When I got to see him at Suburban Hospital, knowing his illness and how he had been in decline, I kind of had the sense his name would pop up on our list when we called the hospital. And so I knew it was not a good sign. I didn't know what to expect when I got up to the room, I think on the third floor there, second floor. But what I found was one after another, people coming to visit him. At the moment that I was there, it was the Buffalo News family that was there. Right afterwards, Elaine was on her way up. I understand from Jesse that there were countless others, so many that the staff at the hospital said, "Boy, your dad was a popular guy." We didn't share a long time. I didn't want to take away. I knew how important it was for him to share his space with his friends. He still had that twinkle in his eye. You could just see it. There was something about the way that Pete smiled. It was with his whole face, but also the corners of his eyes really extended, his eyes narrowed, and it just was full of joy. And he was genuinely happy to see me, as he was everyone that came in. And he said, "Oh, Rabbi, I'm so glad you came." And that's who he was. He was the perfect host and, as I said, connector. He was holding court, and the love was palpable even in that room. Who was Pete Simon? He was a friend. He was my friend. I also want to pass on, I did talk to Elaine. She said something important. She said that he was someone who always saw the good in everyone. And that also is very true. He could always get right to the core. He also knew who was a good person. He was a good detector of that. I'd like to share a poem as we come to our conclusion. This is a poem written by a poet of Israel before the state, Chaim Nachman Bialik. It's called After My Death. After my death, mourn me this way. There was a man, and see, he is no more. Before his time, this man died, and his life song in Midbar stopped. Oh, it's sad. One more song he had, and now that song is gone for good, gone for good. And it is very sad. A harp, too, he had, a living being and murmurous, and the poet and his words in it, all of his heart's secrets revealed, and all the strings his hand gave breath. But one secret his heart kept hid, round and round his fingers played, and one string stayed mute, mute to this day. And it is sad, very sad, all of her days this string moved. Mute she moved, mute she shook, for her song, her beloved Redeemer. She yearned and thirsted and grieved and longed, as a heart pines for as it's intended. Though he hesitated each day, she waited, and a secret moan begged for him to come. And he hesitated and never came and never came. And great, great is the pain. There was a man, and see, he is no more. And his life song in Midbar stopped. One more song he had to go. And now the song is gone for good, gone for good. We do mourn Pete. We know he sang to the best of his ability every day, even if he wasn't a good singer. I'm not sure, maybe he was. But he always tried. He always had the sparkle. He always loved us. And we should always remember him with a smile. Zikrono livracha, may his memory be for a blessing. We're going to turn now to our yellow pamphlet here. And in the middle is a prayer called El Malei Rachamim, a prayer for the departed. I'm going to invite everyone to rise for this as Cantor will recite his Hebrew name found in the Beth Am files, Pesach ben Yosef v'Sylvia.
El Malei Rachamim, Shachin Pavravim, Hamseh Menuchan Nechadna, Tekakavri HaShechina, Im Kedushim U'Taharim, Kezar ישכבו ונאמר אמן.
In English together. Lord, full of mercy, who dwells on high, fitting rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, divine presence and the height of the holy and pure, who shine like the glow of the firmament for the soul of Peter Simon, who is gone to his eternal world. For we pray in memory of his soul, may his resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the Master of mercy shelter him in the shelter of God's wings forever. May God bind his soul in the bond of life. The Lord is his inheritance. May he rest peacefully upon his resting place. And let us say, Amen. We have one final prayer, which is the Mourner's Kaddish. When we say this prayer, we link Pete to the many, many generations in his family and community that have recited this prayer. This will be the very first time we recite it for him. We will continue to recite it as a community, as a family, because we will remember him. The prayer is not about death, it's about life. It means God's name is great and sanctified, and that we should have peace in this world. We say it without a melody, in a tradition that has been passed down for over 1,000 years. Together. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Bialma, Tivrach, Hirte, Viamlik Malchute, Bechayachon, Viamachon, Bechayed, Echol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Vizman, Kariv, Yimramein, Yehi Shmei Rabbah, Mevorach, Leolam, Olmeo Maya, Yitbarak, Vishtabak, Vitpa'ar, Vitramam, Vitnase, Yitadar, Vitalev, Yitalal, Shmei de Kudasha, Barichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlam rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Hoseh shalom v'imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May God grant Peter Simon's soul peace and our world peace. And we say together, Amen. This concludes our service. We're going to offer to the family. Let me just see it. Jay, did you want to come up? Okay. We're going to offer to the family the words of traditional for mourning. And why don't you? We'll let the family stand up and face our group over here. And we're going to offer them the words of consolation. And I just want the family to really hear and experience these words. These are the sacred words of memory. We say together, Hamakom, Yenachem, Etchem, Betoch, Sha'ar, Avlei, Tzion, V'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. May you go on your way in peace. May we all go on our way in peace. Just as you're leaving, just be careful. It looks like it's a little bit nicer outside, maybe. If you wanted to kibitz outside or greet the family, just be aware of the masks here.